For the secretary birds, too, the mating season has arrived. The same couple that was looking for insects shortly after the first rains is now preparing its nest. Though both animals engage in this task, it is essentially the male that collects the branches, while the female arranges them on the flat top of an acacia, creating an enormous circular nest, characteristic of this species. During this time, the secretary birds are attentive and affectionate with their mates, courting them on the ground, in flight and in the nest. And shortly afterwards, in a way ornithologists have still not been able to describe, they mate. They lay no more than 3 extremely valuable eggs. In the same acacia forest in which the secretary birds have built their nest, a family of warthogs grazes on the nutritious green grasses that have grown since the rains. The little warthogs are only a few days old, but already they are expert savanna dwellers. They still lack the experience to be able to find food like their elders, but they have the mobile food store of their mothers, and though she doesn't want to stop to feed them, the young warthogs are determined to get at the nutritious milk. Their only task during these first weeks will be to exercise in order to acquire the speed and strength which will enable them to flee from hunters. And they dedicate themselves to this in body and soul. Wrestling matches or football with a pat of elephant dung form part of their training. Anything will do if it serves to make them faster and stronger, because it will not be long before the savannah puts them to the test. In the shade of an acacia, a cheetah watches over a nearby group of oryxes. The oryxes are too strong for him, but at this time of year, they are always young calves, just a few days old, and it is one of these that the cheetah has his eye on. The calf appears to be perfectly healthy, and the possibilities of catching it are virtually nil. But the cheetah has been building up tension and decides to launch a desperate attempt. The oryx moves off unhurriedly, confident of its superiority, but without exposing its young to unnecessary risks. The cheetah has not even had the chance to test out its prodigious speed. There are many adults in the group, and it knows that when it comes to defending its young, an oryx is capable of killing even a lion, so he abandons the attempt and returns to his slow wanderings in search of more accessible prey. During the short rains between December and February, there are frequent storms at nightfall. The climate mellows and the heat of the day gives way to fresh, humid air, the temperature the large hunters have been waiting for to go into action. The evenings and nights of Shaba are extraordinarily beautiful, but even loyal to its contrasts, they are also the time when death lurks in the dark. Night falls over the Owasso Nagido. Along the dark banks, long shadows emerge from the water in search of the warmth of the sand heated up during the daytime hours. The metabolism of the Nile crocodiles depends on their body temperature, and this in turn depends on their surroundings. So at sunset, the narrow shores of the Owasso fill with these dragons. For the lionesses, the night is an advantage. Lions have eyes that can see in the dark. Under the cover of the shadows, a mother and her young from the previous year lie in wait for the herbivores, guided by the sounds coming from the thicket. Tonight they are not in luck. From the forest alongside the river, 3 elephants emerge, and no hunter in Shaba would dare disturb them. So the lionesses lower their guard and rest, waiting for other signs that reveal the presence of possible prey. The rains have done their work. In mid-January, Shaba is at its most splendid. There is abundant vegetation, water all around, and the savannah teems with hundreds of animals taking advantage of the bonanza. The elephants have returned to the region and remain here longer. Different interrelated matriarchal groups come together by the Owasso Nagido to enjoy the end of abstinence. Elephants need between 80 and 160 liters of water a day, and the adult males can drink twice this amount, so they must always have water sources available. The banks of the Owasso Nagido, whose waters are now high and stable, every day attract large herds of pachyderms. The adults can drink and bathe, and the young can wallow in the mud, protected by a forest of colossal legs. These clans spend the dry season communicating with each other at great distances, but physically separated in order to more efficiently explore and utilize the land devastated by the drought. But now Shaba is witness to their reunion and can enjoy the spectacle, once frequent in East Africa, of herds of over 200 individuals. Today, the region that comprises the reserves of Shaba, Samburu, and Buffalo Springs is home to the largest herds of elephants in East Africa. And again, there is a paradox, this miracle of abundance in the kingdom of drought. The riverbank is the meeting place for the majority of the species of Shaba. During the course of the day, many of the animals of the savannah come here to drink, and that is a risky moment when they inevitably expose themselves to danger. With the heat of the sun, the large Nile crocodiles have returned to the water. On one of the banks, a group of Grevy's zebras are slaking their thirst, and the appearance of a young colt attracts the great saurians. The crocodiles are silent in the current of the Owasso, and when they submerge, they become invisible. But the zebras are on permanent alert, and the shallowness of the river is a factor in their favor. A surprise attack is the crocodile's only chance of claiming a victim from the land along the Owasso Nagiro.